The twin miracle. The price of cowardice. He left her because doctors told him she was infertile. 2 years later, he saw her with twins, and his world shattered. Do you believe in miracles born from pain? Smash the like button now. If you think life always finds a way, and comment what you would have done in Izzy's place. Chapter 1. The chill of a diagnosis, Isabel. Izzy Hayes sat silently in the cold London medical office, her hands tightly clenched in her lap. Her knuckles were white, and the fluorescent ceiling light hummed softly. The air smelled of antiseptic and paper, and time stretched endlessly between the moment the doctor walked in and the moment she finally spoke. Her voice was clinical, calm, using words like insufficient function, low probability, and then the word that hit Izzy like a punch to the chest, infertile. She didn't cry. Not immediately. She just sat there, mechanically, her face pale as her heartbeat echoed in her ears. When she walked out into the gray afternoon light, everything around her felt unreal. Cars passed, people talked on phones, children laughed in the distance. The world kept spinning while hers had just stopped. She had always dreamed of being a mother. That dream now felt like a cruel joke. Chapter 2. The cruelty of a goodbye. When she finally reached her flat in Notting Hill, Ethan Sterling, her boyfriend of 2 years, was home early. Dressed in an impeccable white shirt, he stood by the kitchen island with a glass of whiskey in one hand and his phone in the other. The golden evening light made his blue eyes look colder than usual. "You're home early," he said. Without much on. Izzy didn't answer right away. She slowly took off her coat, folded it with shaking hands, and placed it on the back of a chair. Then she spoke, her voice calm and firm, yet fragile. "I went to the doctor today." Ethan looked up. "How curious, man." She took a deep, steadying breath. "They told me I'm infertile. I can't have children." There was a long pause. Ethan stared at her, his face unreadable. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't move closer. He simply processed the words as if they were bad business news. Distant, unemotional, cold. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he put down his glass with a soft clink, picked up his jacket, and walked toward the door. "That changes things," he said bluntly. "I'm sorry." And with that, he left. The door closed behind him with a silent finality that resonated louder than any argument. Izzy remained frozen, staring at the closed door. When she finally collapsed to the floor, tears fell in heavy, uncontrollable waves. Not just for the man who walked out, but for the future she believed had just been stolen from her. Chapter 3. The canvas of pain. The following days faded into a silent, painful fog. Izzy stayed inside, barely speaking, barely moving, wrapped in a blanket that did nothing to warm her. Ethan never called, never texted. It was as if she had been erased from his life as easily as he had walked out the door. She returned to her sketchbook, not to work, but to survive. Slowly, her drawings changed. Abstract expressions of pain evolved into softer, more hopeful representations of motherhood and transformation. Her art became the only language she had the strength to speak aloud. Chapter 4. The unthinkable suspicion. A week later, she forced herself out. She sat in a corner cafe, watching the world continue without her. That realization hurt, but it also helped. Maybe the world wouldn't stop for her pain, but maybe, finally, she wouldn't stop for it either. That night, something strange happened. As she brushed her teeth, her stomach lurched, and a wave of nausea hit her hard. It must be stress. But a flicker of doubt crept in, uninvited. Over the next few days, the nausea didn't disappear. Her breasts were tender. She was exhausted, even after hours of sleep. She told herself it was depression. Finally, her best friend, Chloe, burst into the flat, armed with groceries and sheer determination. Izzy finally broke down in Chloe's arms. Chloe made soup, cleaned the kitchen, and anchored Izzy with her presence. That night, after yet another wave of nausea, Chloe leaned in and asked softly, "Izzy, is there any chance you could be pregnant?" Izzy laughed bitterly. "I'm infertile, remember?" But Chloe didn't laugh. "Are you sure?" It was the first time Izzy realized she wasn't. Not really. Just one diagnosis delivered in one sterile office by one doctor who barely looked at her. If you identify with the feeling of having to start over, comment Rebirth and don't forget to subscribe. Chapter 5. 2 lines, 1 destiny. The next morning, Izzy stood barefoot in her bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test monitor. Her fingers trembled. She told herself it was just to rule it out. She opened the box with rigid hands. Finally, holding her breath, she took the test. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, waiting for the longest minutes of her life. When the timer softly beeped, she didn't move. Then, she walked to the sink, her eyes fixed on the test. 2 lines. Her heart stopped. She blinked, thinking her eyes were playing tricks. But the lines remained clear, impossible to deny. She was pregnant. Tears streamed down her face. These were not the messy tears of grief, but something different. Soft, overwhelming, miraculous. She was stunned by the silent wonder that had taken root inside her. Chapter 6. The Double Miracle. That same day, she booked an appointment at a different clinic. She needed certainty. When the new doctor moved the wand over her abdomen, searching the screen for answers, seconds passed. Then, the faint, unmistakable sound of one heartbeat filled the room, and then another. Izzy's eyes flew open. "There are 2, the doctor said, smiling. "Were you expecting twins?" Izzy covered her mouth again. 2 heartbeats, 2 lives, inside her. It was more than a miracle. It was everything she thought she had lost forever. When she left the clinic, she clutched the ultrasound image like the most precious thing she had ever owned. She didn't feel broken. She felt chosen. Chapter 7. The Art of Motherhood. The following months were a quiet awakening. Izzy's art shifted from abstract expressions of pain to softer, more hopeful representations of motherhood and transformation. Her work matured, and she shared some of it online. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from women who felt understood. Chloe became her rock, helping her set up the nursery, soft sage green walls, and 2 side-by-side cribs. In her 7th month, Izzy received an unexpected email from a small gallery in central London. A curator had seen her work and wanted to include several pieces in a local exhibition focused on motherhood and identity. Izzy agreed. On the opening night, Izzy wore a flowing cream dress that gently embraced her rounded belly. She watched quietly as people stopped before her work. It wasn't fame or money she felt. It was something deeper, connection. Chapter 8. The Return of the Shadow. Less than 2 weeks from her due date, Izzy walked slowly through Regent's Park. She sat on a bench near the fountain. It was then that her eyes landed on a tall figure across the path. Dressed in a tailored coat, Ethan Sterling was standing by the edge, talking on his phone. Her body froze. The world narrowed into a tunnel of sound and memory. He looked up. Their eyes met. He froze. The call ended. Ethan began walking toward her, slowly at first, then faster as he recognized her face. He stopped a few feet away, unsure how close he was allowed to get. "Izzy," he said, almost disbelieving. "You're pregnant!" She didn't respond. She looked at him with an expression that held no anger, but no welcome. "Is it mine?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly on the last word. "They are," she answered calmly, a hand resting protectively on her belly. "Twins. They'll be here soon." He sat beside her, staring blankly at the fountain. "I didn't know," he said. After a moment, "No one told me." "No, you didn't ask," she replied, not with bitterness, but with the simple truth. You left, and I didn't chase you. You thought I couldn't. I was scared. I handled it badly. Yes, you did, she said quietly. But I'm not here for apologies. I made peace with your absence. They are my daughters, Ethan. I carried them alone, and we will raise them if necessary. But now you have a choice. Not for me, for them. He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something shatter behind his blue eyes. She carefully stood up. He instinctively reached to help her, and she allowed it, just for balance. I'm not asking for anything, she said. But if you truly want to be part of this, you must show up, not with words, but with presence. Then she walked away, leaving him standing beneath the amber light of the trees. With only the weight of the future, he still might have a chance to fight for. Have you ever wondered if people can truly change? Comment your opinion, and whether you think Ethan deserves a second chance, and don't forget to like. Chapter 9. The Rebirth in the Hospital. At dawn, the first contraction hit. Izzy called Chloe, then the hospital. The hours passed in a blur of pressure, effort, and sweat. When the first cry filled the room, followed by the second shortly after, Izzy felt her soul exhale for the first time in years. The nurses placed both babies on her chest, two perfect little girls, Olivia and Maya. Izzy sobbed, overwhelmed. She had done it, alone. She had grown two human beings from a place that once felt empty. A nurse knocked gently before entering. You have a visitor? She said softly. A man. He says his name is Ethan Sterling. Izzy froze. Finally, she said, let him in. Ethan entered the room. He was nothing like the man who had abandoned her in silence. He looked vulnerable. His eyes nervously searched until they landed on her. Then, slowly, they dropped to the two bassinets. He approached cautiously. They're beautiful, he said. His voice cracking. She watched him. He leaned closer to the bassinets, gently studying the girls as if they were rare, delicate artifacts. I don't know what to say, he admitted. I've been thinking about what I would say if this moment came, and now I'm here, and nothing feels sufficient. They don't need your words, she said softly. They need consistency, presence, patience. He sighed slowly. I know. I can't ask for anything. I just want to try. Even if you don't forgive me. I want to earn a place in their lives. She gestured toward a chair. Sit, but don't make promises you're not ready to keep. He sat in silence, and for a long time, they said nothing at all. Chapter 10. The Honest Commitment. The following months were a whirlwind of night feeds, diapers, and stolen naps. Izzy adapted to motherhood instinctively. Ethan kept coming, every day. He didn't bring flowers or grand gifts. Instead, he brought questions. He wanted to learn how to hold them, feed them, and recognize the different types of cries. He didn't try to impress or take control. He simply asked to be useful. Izzy permitted it, cautiously. She watched him, looking for signs of inconsistency, waiting for the moment he would walk out again. But he didn't. He took the night shifts, learned to deal with colic, and cleaned spit up from his expensive shirts without complaint. Day after day, he showed up. 3 months later, Izzy found herself in the kitchen at sunset. Ethan was quietly assembling a new baby bouncer in the living room. She heard him humming again, a tuneless melody, and a strange warmth bloomed in her chest. That evening, they sat on the sofa. She offered him a glass of wine. You're different, she said. Not just how you act, but who you are. I feel different, Ethan said. Being with them, with you, has changed everything. Why didn't you come back sooner? She asked, the question she had carried like a stone in her chest. He looked down at his hands. Because I was ashamed. I thought I didn't deserve to reappear, and I feared that if I did, you wouldn't even open the door. I didn't expect you to come back, she said, and I didn't plan for you to stay, but you did. Ethan put down his glass and moved closer to her. I don't expect a second chance, Izzy, but I would give anything to build something better than the first. She wasn't ready to erase the past, but she was ready for something more. Then stay, she said softly. Not just for them. For real. A few weeks later, on the girl's 4-month birthday, Izzy hosted a small gathering in the park. Olivia and Maya slept soundly beside them. Ethan pulled something from his pocket. A small velvet box. I know this isn't a traditional moment, he said, and I know I have so much more to prove. But I also know this is the clearest I've ever felt in my life. I love you. I want to spend the rest of my days making up for the ones I lost. He opened the box. A simple, honest ring. I'm not asking for a perfect future, just the opportunity to build a real one. With you. Izzy looked at the ring, then at the man beside her, and finally at her daughters, sleeping with their fists clenched. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to protect herself from what she wanted. She took the box and whispered, "Then let's start over." And in the soft glow of that golden afternoon, with the scent of wildflowers in the air and the sound of tiny breaths beside them, they did. Reflection and final call to action. The story of Isabel Hayes and Ethan Sterling is proof that love isn't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone who is willing to be real. Izzy didn't wait to be saved. She rebuilt herself from scratch, transforming heartbreak into strength and silence into purpose. Ethan returned, humbled and ready to prove his worth, not with grand gestures, but with presence and patience. Their reunion isn't based on forgetting the pain, but on overcoming it together. The twins, Olivia and Maya, born of a miracle Izzy was told she'd never have, are the living symbol that life can bloom in the spaces where everything once felt lost. This ending doesn't promise a flawless future, but something more important. A future built on truth, forgiveness, and the kind of love that chooses to stay. Thank you for following this incredible story. If it moved you, subscribe and share this video to honor the power of second chances. Chapter 11. The Daily Test of Trust. Thu Thuk Long Tin Hang Ngay. The engagement didn't erase the 4 months of silent abandonment. Their life together became an intensive study in rebuilding trust, and Izzy was the meticulous professor. They moved into a beautiful, spacious house in Richmond, close to a large park. But the luxury of the house was secondary to the daily accountability. Ethan didn't wear the engagement ring. He wore a new watch, a constant reminder of the time he had to earn back. Izzy's scrutiny was intense, particularly when Ethan returned to his investment firm. I need to know your schedule, not for control, but for transparency, Izzy told him firmly. If you are late, you call. If you have a crisis, you communicate. The old life of self-containment is over. Ethan accepted the terms without protest. He understood that every canceled meeting, every early departure from the office to take a crying baby, was a brick laid in the foundation of trust. He learned to delegate, to prioritize the urgent cries of his daughters over the urgent demands of the market. One evening, a major financial crisis erupted. Ethan had a crucial, unscheduled late-night call with clients in Hong Kong. Izzy, overwhelmed by colic and sleep deprivation, watched him take the call from the spare room. Later, she found him in the nursery, holding a wailing Olivia. It was a disaster, Ethan admitted, exhausted. I lost millions in the last hour, Izzy. Did you hide it? She asked softly, watching him rock their daughter. No, I lost the money, but I told my partners the truth. My priority is here tonight. I rescheduled the follow-up for the morning. Izzy walked over and gently touched his shoulder. The money can be earned back, Ethan. The trust cannot. Do you think Izzy's firm conditions and Ethan's commitment to presence are a realistic model for healing after betrayal? Comment your opinion. Chapter 12. The Lie Exposed. As the twins approached their first birthday, Izzy insisted on seeing a specialist for a definitive, second opinion on her infertility diagnosis. It was a final step she needed for her own peace of mind. Ethan, though worried, fully supported her. The appointment was clinical and thorough. After reviewing the initial reports and conducting new scans, the specialist, Dr. Anya Sharma, walked into the room with a puzzled expression. "Mrs. Hayes," Dr. Sharma began, "your initial diagnosis was incorrect. Based on these advanced scans and blood work, there is absolutely no anatomical or hormonal reason for infertility. In fact, your ovarian function is robust." Izzy and Ethan stared at the doctor in stunned silence. "I believe," Dr. Sharma continued, examining the old report, "that the previous doctor misread the initial hormone panel, possibly confusing the temporary stress markers with a permanent condition. You were never infertile." The relief was physical, but the revelation was a shock. Izzy looked at Ethan. He had left her not because he was scared of a pregnancy, but because he was scared of a life without one, based on a lie. That night, alone in their living room, Izzy confronted him, holding the original report. "You left me based on a mistake," she whispered, her voice tight with residual pain. "You let me grieve the loss of a future that was always possible." "I know," Ethan admitted, tears in his eyes. "But Izzy, the lie was about me, not you. I left because I was obsessed with the perfect life. I wanted the perfect career, the perfect wife, and the perfect 2 children, neatly planned. When the doctor told me the future was imperfect, I ran from the commitment required for the imperfect reality." He knelt before her. "The miracle wasn't that you got pregnant, Izzy. The miracle was that you re-entered my life and forced me to confront the flaw in my own character. That diagnosis exposed my cowardice. I don't love you because you gave me daughters. I love you because you allowed me to heal the part of myself that was incapable of loving anything that wasn't perfect." Izzy looked at her husband, seeing the raw truth. The lie had hurt, but it ultimately revealed the depths of his change. She reached out and pulled him into a fierce, healing embrace. The pain of the past was real, but the future they were building was more so. Final call to action. A future built on truth. This chapter reveals that the greatest obstacle wasn't the diagnosis, but the fear of imperfection. If you believe Ethan's honesty and vulnerability truly earn him forgiveness, share this video now. Comment below. Now that the diagnosis is proven false, should Izzy and Ethan try for a 3rd child, or focus solely on Olivia and Maya? Your support helps us tell stories of transformation. Tuyệt vời, tôi rất vui vì bạn vẫn muốn tiếp tục khám phá những chi tiết sâu sắc hơn trong câu chuyện này, đặc biệt sau tiết lộ lớn đó. Để tiếp nối một cách ý nghĩa, tôi sẽ tập trung vào việc củng cố lại lời hứa của họ dựa trên sự thật và thử thách gia đình đầu tiên của họ. Tôi sẽ tiếp tục với phong cách tiếng Anh lôi cuốn, tuân thủ các quy tắc bạn đã đặt ra. The Twin Miracle, The Vow of the Imperfect Future. Chapter 13. The Vow of the Imperfect. The revelation that Izzy had never been infertile was a shock, but ironically, it cemented their foundation in a way nothing else could have. The false diagnosis had forced Ethan to face his deepest flaw, his fear of imperfection, and he had passed the test. 2 months later, they stood before a judge in a simple, elegant civil ceremony. This wedding was not about proving love. It was about affirming their choice based on the absolute truth. During the vows, Ethan spoke from the heart, discarding the prepared script. "Izzy," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "I am not promising you a perfect life. I am not promising you a life without problems, because I now know that would be a lie. I promise you one thing: transparency. I promise to communicate my fears, to confront my flaws, and to never again run from the beautiful, messy, anti-imperfect reality we have built." Izzy, looking radiant in her simple white gown, slipped the honest ring onto his finger. "I promise you my honesty, Ethan. I promise to challenge you, to hold you accountable, and to always remind you that our greatest strength is the courage we found in our weakest moments." Their wedding photos were filled with authentic, unguarded joy. Olivia giggling while grabbing Ethan's tie, Maya sleeping soundly in Chloe's arms, and Izzy and Ethan looking at each other, fully seen and fully accepted. Chapter 14. The Crisis of the Unplanned. Their happiness was tested 6 months later when an uninvited complication from the past resurfaced: Ethan's family. Ethan had always kept his distance from his parents, who embodied the same rigid standards of success and perfection he had struggled to escape. They had been absent during the girl's birth and the wedding, viewing Izzy and the unplanned family as a distraction from Ethan's career track. Now, Ethan's father, Mr. Sterling Sr., called an emergency family dinner. "Ethan," his father began, reviewing his son's recent performance, "your investment returns are down 15% this quarter. Your focus is compromised. You need to get your priorities straight. This domestic situation," he gestured dismissively toward Izzy, "is impacting the legacy." Izzy stood up calmly, facing the patriarch who once terrified her. "Mr. Sterling, the only thing impacting Ethan's legacy is the outdated belief that success is measured solely by profit. He has built a life of integrity, something money can't buy." Mr. Sterling ignored her, focusing his cold gaze on his son. "You need to put your life back on track. We suggest you send the twins to an au pair school in Switzerland and return to your 16-hour workdays." Ethan, however, was no longer the frightened man who had run from a diagnosis. He stood beside his wife, his spine straight. "Father," Ethan said, his voice firm and unwavering, "my priority is no longer the market. It is my family. My daughters are not a distraction. They are my center. And my wife is my partner, not a commodity you can dismiss." He delivered the final defining blow. "I've tendered my resignation from the firm. I'm starting my own fund. One based on ethical, sustainable investments. I will never sacrifice my life for a spreadsheet again. And if that means forfeiting the family name and inheritance, then I accept that price." Izzy watched her husband, her heart swelling with an immense pride that dwarfed any emotion she had ever felt. He had chosen her truth over his legacy. Final call to action. The price of true success. Ethan's ultimate choice, walking away from the inheritance he once craved, proves his total transformation. If you believe he made the right decision, leave a comment with the word integrity to celebrate his choice. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 15. The New Empire. Ethan's resignation sent shockwaves through the financial world. But his new venture, Ethel Partners, named after an old English word for noble or principle, became an immediate success. He focused on sustainable, socially responsible investments, a clear moral contrast to his family's ruthless, profit-driven legacy. The irony was not lost on the business community. Ethan, freed from the chains of his family's expectations, was more focused and successful than ever before. His clients were drawn not just to his talent, but to his story of redemption and integrity. Lila, Izzy, was his silent, powerful partner. She continued her art, now creating pieces that celebrated the balance of life and work. She used the success of her art to establish a women's resilience fund, investing in business startups run by single mothers, a direct tribute to her own struggle. Their life became a beautifully orchestrated dance of purpose and parenting. Ethan worked flexible hours from their home office, always available for school runs or a quick twin crisis. Lila thrived, managing her art commissions and the fund with the same clarity she used to demand from Ethan's schedule. Olivia and Maya, now vibrant toddlers, were the central focus. They were raised in an environment where true success was measured in laughter, presence, and kindness, not in market share. Do you think the freedom from his family's financial control was the true catalyst for Ethan's massive success? Share your insights in the comments. Chapter 16. The Unexpected Letter. 5 years into their marriage, Ethan received a peculiar package delivered to the old family firm, which was then forwarded to his new office. It was a thick, legal envelope bearing the address of the clinic where Izzy had received her original, false infertility diagnosis. Inside was a letter from the head of the clinic, along with a certified copy of Izzy's initial medical file. The letter explained that the original doctor had recently passed away, and during the audit of his private files, the clinic discovered a note regarding Izzy's case. To whom it may concern, the initial infertility diagnosis for Ms. Hayes, Izzy, was incorrect. She was perfectly fertile. I regret that I rushed the preliminary reading due to personal stresses at the time. I never had the courage to correct this massive, life-altering mistake. Ethan read the note, his hands trembling. It was the confirmation of the lie they already knew, but seeing it in ink gave it finality. He looked up at Izzy, who walked in with a cup of tea. "It's about the diagnosis," he said, handing her the letter. Izzy read it, her face calm. She looked at the paper, the source of all her initial pain, the catalyst for Ethan's flight, and the accidental trigger for their real love story. She smiled, a peaceful, accepting smile. "He never had the courage to correct it," Izzy murmured, referring to the deceased doctor. "But his mistake led to our greatest truth." She took the letter and gently put it through the paper shredder in their office. "The lie is now completely gone, Ethan," she said, taking his hand. "And all that is left is the life we chose to build on the truth." Their love story wasn't just about a second chance. It was a testament to the powerful, beautiful reality that sometimes the most devastating mistakes in life are the ones that force us onto the path of our greatest, most authentic blessings. Final call to action. What an incredible ending. If this story inspires you to seek your own authentic truth, comment below with the word authentic to celebrate their journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe.